Myles Garrett just went off about Shedeur Sanders. The most feared pass rusher in the NFL couldn't believe what he witnessed. This is the validation Sanders needed. Let's dive in.
I mean, he put it up, and I'm just like, oh God, who is that even going to? I wasn't even looking down there to CIB, and then, I'm just looking. I'm like, oh God, please. And he drops it in the bucket, and he reaches it out. I'm like, please, just don't fumble into the end zone.
Running away from it is Sanders. He's looking long. He's got a man caught at the 10-yard line. Bonds. He's
dead. Like, wow, there's not many guys in the league that can make that throw. So that was a hell of a throw. I hope he can continue to, grow and develop, for making plays like that, and take it from there.
Shedeur Sanders just left Myles Garrett absolutely shook. The most dominant pass rusher in the NFL stopped everything to talk about one throw. This wasn't just respect. This was shock. This was a game changer. Let's break down why Garrett couldn't stop talking about Sanders. Las Vegas, bright lights, high stakes, and a young quarterback making throws that veterans dream about. Shedeur Sanders delivered a performance that had even the opposition's best player stopping to say, wait, did that just happen? Garrett didn't just mention Sanders in passing. He went out of his way to highlight a specific moment that embodied everything elite quarterbacks are made of. In a league where defensive stars rarely give offensive players their flowers, this is massive. This is validation from someone who sees quarterbacks at their worst, who studies their tendencies, who knows exactly what separates the good from the legendary.
I think everyone was surprised to see him go to the 5th round. He's come to camp and OTAs with a great attitude. He's a hardworking guy. He has a good head on his shoulders. He's always positive, always.
Here's what makes this moment extraordinary. Garrett and his defensive unit were absolutely feasting that day. They put together what Garrett himself called a historic day. 10 sacks. In a league where 3 sacks is considered excellent, they tripled that and added one more. They were living in the backfield, making quarterbacks uncomfortable, forcing mistakes. But even in the midst of that dominant performance, even while breaking franchise records, Garrett couldn't help but be impressed by what Sanders was doing. That's how special that throw was. Let's break down what actually happened. Garrett admits he wasn't tracking the receiver downfield initially. He was doing what elite pass rushers do, collapsing the pocket, forcing bad decisions. When the ball went up, his first instinct was concern. Who was that even going to? Is this about to be a disaster? Then something magical happened. The ball dropped into a bucket. Perfect placement. Window tighter than a drum. The receiver secured it, and Garrett's only thought was, please don't fumble into the end zone.
Running away from it is Sanders. He's looking long. He's got a man caught at the 10-yard line. Bonds. He's down.
The throw tells you everything about Sanders' processing speed and arm talent. Under pressure from one of the most fearsome defensive lines in football, he identified a receiver that even the pass rusher bearing down on him didn't see, trusted his arm, and delivered a dart that only his guy could catch. That's not luck. That's elite quarterback play, period. Garrett knows this better than most. He's faced Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. When he says there's not many guys in the league that can make that throw, he's putting Sanders in rarefied air. He's saying this kid has something most quarterbacks simply don't possess. This moment represents something bigger than one play. It's about a new generation of quarterbacks stepping into the spotlight with zero fear. Sanders isn't intimidated. He's not shrinking under pressure. He's making throws that make defensive coordinators want to tear up their game plans. The narrative around Shedeur has always been complicated.
Multiple people who did not like Shedeur Sanders' attitude.
Being unprofessional, being unprepared.
The worst formal interview I've ever seen in my life. Horrible body language, blames teammates. Biggest thing is, he's just not that good. He kind of makes you feel small.
He's Coach Prime's son. He's got the pedigree and name recognition. But with that comes scrutiny and doubt. 1,000 people waiting for him to fail just to say, see, he was only hyped because of his dad. Every completion has skeptics saying, lucky throw. Every big game gets diminished. But then you have moments like this. You have Myles Garrett, a player with nothing to gain from hyping an opposing quarterback, going out of his way to recognize excellence. A guy who just dominated a game. Thinking about his own historic performance still takes time to acknowledge what he witnessed was special. This is peer recognition from someone who understands the game at the highest level. It cuts through all the noise, all the hot takes, all the legacy debates, and gets straight to what actually happened. A young quarterback made a throw that even the guy trying to kill him had to tip his cap to. Las Vegas wasn't a cupcake game. This was a legitimate NFL defense imposing their will. That 10-sack performance tells you the offensive line had a rough day. But in the midst of that chaos, with constant pressure and defensive linemen living in the backfield, Sanders found ways to make elite throws. That's the mark of a franchise quarterback. It's not about playing well when everything is perfect. It's about making magic when everything is falling apart around you. It's about seeing windows that don't exist and throwing receivers open when the pocket is collapsing.
That was undrafted in the second or third round, and they would just use him in a trade. The fact that Shedeur was not selected until round 5 of 7.
In that environment, most quarterbacks crumble. They start seeing ghosts, force throws into coverage, or lose their composure completely. But not Shedeur Sanders. He stayed calm, he processed, he delivered. What's fascinating is how Garrett frames his hope for Sanders' development. He's not just saying, "Nice throw, kid." He's saying, "I hope he can continue to grow and develop from making plays like that." There's an investment there, an acknowledgement that this isn't a one-time thing, but potentially the beginning of something special. The flashes, the moments, the throws that make defensive players take notice, those are building blocks. You can't teach the vision to see that receiver downfield. You can't teach the arm strength to fit that ball into that window. You can't teach the composure to make that throw under that pressure. Either you have it or you don't. And Shedeur Sanders has it.
Every NFL team had a chance to draft him at least 4 times, but each time the individual team said, "Pass, we don't want him." That's actually quite, what's the word?
Legendary.
To piss off that many coaches, general managers.
That's the mindset of a predator who knows he's got his opponent right where he wants them. Yet in the middle of that bloodbath, he still found himself having an "oh my God" moment watching Sanders make that throw. For Sanders, this Las Vegas performance represents another step in proving he belongs at this level. Not because of his last name or the hype, but because when the lights are brightest and defensive monsters like Myles Garrett are trying to take your head off, he can still make throws that leave even those monsters impressed. The NFL doesn't care about your pedigree. It doesn't care about college stats or family names. All it cares about is whether you can perform when everything is on the line. And based on Garrett's reaction, Sanders is passing that test.
It feels good. It feels real good. It felt better to see all my guys. I feel like each of them got a sack. I feel like
even in his moment of personal triumph, he was focused on his teammates. That makes his comments about Sanders even more significant. He didn't have to mention that throw. He could have kept the focus entirely on his defensive historic performance, but he chose to acknowledge excellence when he saw it, even from an opponent. That's the ultimate sign of respect. This is one game, one throw, one moment. But these are the moments careers are built on. These are the plays that get remembered years from now when people talk about when they first knew a quarterback was different. And if Myles Garrett is already putting Shedeur Sanders in the conversation with the league's elite throwers, the rest of the NFL better take notice. Because when a defensive player of that caliber tells you a quarterback can do things that most guys in the league can't do, you listen. What you just witnessed isn't a fluke. It's a preview of what's coming. And Myles Garrett, in the middle of his own historic day, made sure everyone knew it.